One-time Russian mutineer Yevgeny Prigozhin is reportedly back in the country, and that's according to the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. The whereabouts of the Wagner mercenary group leader have been a mystery since his failed armed insurrection against President Vladimir Putin's government. Under a deal to end that mutiny, the Kremlin reportedly dropped charges against Prigozhin while he went into exile in Belarus. But Mr. Lukashenko's latest update has further deepened the mystery.
Что касается Евгения Васильевича Викторовича, Евгения Викторовича Пригожина, он находится в Питере, где он сегодня утром, может быть, в Москву поехал, может, еще где-то, но на территории Беларуси его нет.
A business jet linked to Prigozhin left St Petersburg for Moscow yesterday and was headed for southern Russia today. It's unclear if the mercenary chief was on board that plane, though. The Belarusian leader also said that the question of Wagner units relocating to Belarus has not yet been resolved. But an offer to station the fighters in Belarus, that still stands. And meanwhile, Russian authorities released images from a police raid on Prigozhin's office and residence in St Petersburg. Dasha Chernyshova joins us live now from Moscow for more on this story. Dasha, how has the Kremlin responded to this revelation that the Wagner chief might well be back in Russia?
Well, as we have heard from the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin is not following the location of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Peskov has said that the Kremlin is not interested and does not need to establish his exact location. So from these words, we understand that Yevgeny Prigozhin could be anywhere. Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, who brokered the deal between the Kremlin and the Wagner boss Yevgeny Prigozhin, has confirmed that indeed Prigozhin used to be in Belarus and his fighters were offered the abandoned military complexes in Belarus, but he said that the fighters could have a different vision. So the issue of relocation of those fighters to Belarus has not been resolved so far. But we also understand that they are willing in Belarus to welcome the Wagner fighters as well as to use their combat experience, particularly if Belarus needs to counter an external threat. So certainly the issue of Wagner Group is far from being closed. We don't know yet whether the fighters of the Wagner Group have signed contracts with Russia's Ministry of Defense, because that was the condition from the Russian authorities for the Wagner fighters to continue their involvement into the so-called special military operation in Ukraine. And Alexander Lukashenko suggested that those fighters predominantly are in the camps, in the military camps that have where they have been since the withdrawal and the pullout from Bakhmut after the operation on liberating the city, as Moscow calls it, has been completed.
Well, adding to this picture of complexity, Dasha, Russian state media have evidently released images from an alleged police raid on Prigozhin's residence. What else do we know about this?
Yes, indeed. There was the lengthy program on the Russian state television channels, and we understand from this program that there was a raid held on the 24th of June. And according to the footage that we have, some wigs, some money in different currencies, some gold, as well as a lot of armor, a medical cabinet have been uncovered in the house of Yevgeny Prigozhin, which is in St Petersburg region. We also understand that the money worth 10 billion Russian rubles, that is roughly 100 million US dollars, have been uncovered. And according to the Russian media outlets, this money was returned to Yevgeny Prigozhin. So we understand now from the Russian authorities, from the Belarusian authorities, from the Alexander Lukashenko, that Yevgeny Prigozhin is a free man. He can choose where he wants to go. So certainly that adds some confusion as to what role Yevgeny Prigozhin could still play in Russia, because in the program that was released on the Russian state television, he was still called as a traitor. But indeed, we understand from the Kremlin that they are quite sure that the Russian society is still united and that Prigozhin has failed to split the Russian society or to spark the civil unrest in the country, as the Russian authorities have suggested.
All right, Dasha, thank you very much for that. Dasha Chernyshova there reporting live for us from Moscow.